So this is a follow-up video I'm making to answer a few questions that came up that were asked about the Tukam phone stand. So the first question is, how did I decide about the size of the stand, the vertical height that it would place, that would distance the phone from your desktop or whatever you're displaying. And basically, that was trial and error looking at the three major platforms of Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, and of course Zoom. And I noticed that for whatever reason, when you're using the rear camera in these meetings with Microsoft and Google, it was actually kind of a little bit closer than it was with Zoom when you're using the rear camera. And so basically, I used those as far as I wanted it to display basically a little bit more than a standard 8.5 by 11 or notebook sheet of paper. And I figured if you wanted to get it higher, you could certainly stack books or whatever underneath to get it whatever height you wanted. And then with Zoom, although it was zoomed a little further out, I noticed it was really nice because you can actually pinch to zoom in on the Zoom during a Zoom meeting with your camera, which is just a nice feature that the other ones didn't have at the time, at least. And then, of course, there would be ways, if you were to continue to iterate this, it'd be interesting to look at ways to get an adjustable height or to create different models with different heights. But of course, all of that does make the manufacturing process trickier because, of course, if you have a different height that can change other dimensions as well. It uses more of the cardboard, which might mean you need a different size sheet of cardboard, and how many you can fit on a single sheet of cardboard is, of course, a major factor. And then the surface up here, again, I just figured, make it big enough that it could certainly support even the kind of the larger size smartphones. And I did consider, for a while, thinking about making different models with different holes within this top platform for the camera to look through. But again, that would be quite complicated. It would depend on the phone, and it kind of works reasonably well that you can either have your phone like this, or you can have it like this. If you use the screen rotate option when you set your phone down, and you kind of tilt it a little bit to make sure the camera is oriented correctly. So I really like that you can use it in landscape or portrait mode, and just using a rubber band to secure it. The next question was about the costs, and in terms of selling this for a profit, what do the cost margins look like? And so the biggest cost in terms of selling this at scale over the internet is definitely going to be shipping, just because, shipping when it's unfolded, or, it's more efficient to ship it unfolded as a flat sheet, of course, but that you're still looking at $2 there, which is more than the cost of the amount of cardboard that it uses and the laser cutting of that cardboard. So, one crazy idea would be if you could figure out a way to kind of partner with box makers or cereal boxes and kind of get the pattern almost pre-cut into the boxes, or for like a little bit of an upcharge or something, would be an interesting project. But yeah, definitely shipping, especially if you're only shipping a small number, is the biggest cost, more than the cost of the cardboard or the laser cutting. So the cardboard, of course, is relatively cheap, but it is nicer than the cheapest cardboards because it is a little thicker, so it's sturdier. And it's got the white side on one, which I just kind of like the two color of it. And then laser cutting is fairly cheap. I mean, I got a good deal on the laser cutting for sure, but it's not an especially expensive process. It does take some time, though, right? You do have to pay labor for the time just to sit there and kind of pull the sheets in and out. Another question was about, one of the very first prototypes needed quite a bit of counterweight. In fact, basically, it needed 3 times as much counterweight, so like 3 water bottles essentially. And how did I get it down to just the 1 counterweight? And that was, again, the main thing there was just having that eureka moment of realizing I could create it from a single sheet of cardboard, and just doing it with a single sheet where you kind of eliminate the joints makes it a lot stronger, right? And then trying to have a bunch of joints with, each joint is going to cause a little bit of structural weakness there. So by, it's kind of origami inspired, right? The rule with origami is you can only use a single sheet of paper, and people make amazing things out of that. And I think part of the reason that works is that there are no cuts, there aren't multiple sheets of paper fitting together, so it retains its kind of strength and kind of rigidity. And then again, when we added the laser cutting perforations, the main thing is we didn't know that would work at first, and we were worried about if it would make it too weak. So it was kind of a good amount of iterating to get the right number of cuts of dotted lines here. That it wasn't too weak, but still made it much easier to fold. As far as general advice I would give about making something to solve a problem, I would say the number one thing is really just to run it by as many people as possible, and to not get deterred. If the first few people you run it by aren't super excited about it, especially if they're not super excited about it at first because they don't really see the full vision yet. Get a prototype going. Don't be deterred by that. Like, get a working prototype going. Run it by more people. Get the momentum rolling, and eventually you will find the right people. I think that will see your vision if it's a good vision, if it's a good problem that you're trying to solve, and you have a decent working prototype. Once you have that, then and you don't get deterred by a few people not really seeing it. I think that's really key, is to have some collaborators who eventually you find someone that you click with and sees what you see, and can help you to continue to prototype and refine your design.